Hey guys,
Hello.
welcome back to Spooky Sleuths. Today we have an exciting episode for you. We are talking with Mr. Branden Morgan.
I'm Sammi,
And I'm Nicole,
and we are Spooky Sleuths.
Before building the Calvary Audio Network from the ground up, Branden was at Sony Television as an executive producer for the sci-fi series Heart of Darkness, a show he created and wrote the pilot for. After joining Calvary, Branden wrote and produced his first audio series, The Devil Within, which opened at #1 in the world and would go on to be the #5 show of 2021, accumulating over 15 million downloads to date, with the show eventually being purchased by Amazon Studios as a documentary series. Over the following 3 years, Branden would go on to write, produce, and/or narrate an additional 15 audio series spanning all major genres across the podcast landscape. The Devil Within was followed up by the critically acclaimed series Art Fraud, narrated by Alec Baldwin for the iHeartRadio Podcast Network. The success of Art Fraud would lead to the show being sold to Netflix as a feature film starring Jennifer Lopez. The Shadow Girls, an expose about the Green River Killer, would be the next release from the fledgling Calvary Audio Network and would redefine the true crime genre. With a focus on the victims of the worst serial killer in U.S. history, the Shadow Girls would produce real world results as the success of the show, #7 in the world, led directly to the only survivor of the killer being recognized 40 years later for her assistance in catching the perpetrator. Negotiations for the rights as a documentary are currently underway. Several more series, including the scripted dramas Verdict and Shell, as well as the interactive treasure hunt podcast X Marks the Spot, which I personally am excited for. Since leaving Calvary, Branden has written and released 2 additional seasons of The Devil Within and has several more series in development, including The Ides of April, a historical look at the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, narrated and executive produced by Alec Baldwin, and slated for release in mid-2025. With the proven philosophy of podcast as IP creation, Branden has found success creating stories that audiences respond to and that studios see as projects with tremendous derivative potential. So, everybody, welcome Branden Morgan.
My goodness. I don't know if anybody's ever read that whole thing before, ever. In Hollywood, you send it, people don't care. They get your name and a couple of bullet points, and then they move on. Thank you so much for reading that whole thing. It was like a trip down
Absolutely.
memory lane for me.
Listen,
That was
whenever you
great.
sent
Thank
it to us, I was like, oh, now I'm intimidated.
Don't be intimidated. No, that brings me, that's like the last 7-8 years of my life. So that was really nice to it was really nice to hear. Thank you. I'm so happy to
Awesome.
be here. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. So, how did you get into? I listened to the first episode of The Devil Within, so I know how you got
Mm.
into some things, but um, tell us how you got started in like the podcast and everything like that. What sparked your interest in true crime and paranormal cryptids?
Uh, Desperation, to be honest. Everything that you just read about me are like the high points, but in
Yeah.
between all of those jobs, there were really low points that just kind of get skimmed over. So when I was at Sony, that was one of those jobs where, my agent's telling me, "All right, that's it. You're at Sony forever. You're a Sony guy now, and it's a career, and they love you, and it's going to be great." And so they just like, just work hard, keep your head down. You know, you're going to be the dumbest guy on the lot at first, but you won't be for long. Just listen to people and whatever. I'm like, okay, great. And I was there and it was awesome. And the whole time. And then one day, sometimes people make decisions in your life and you don't even know that these people exist, right? It was people
Yeah.
way, way above me that decided that they could struggle along without my show. And so it was, here's a cardboard box for the stuff on your desk. Give us your parking
Mhm.
pass, and we'll see you later. So now I'm mid 40s with no college degree, 2 kids and a mortgage, and I need a job, right? And so my agent's like, "All right, what do you got?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know what I have." So I'm going through my desk, and I found
A
this old.
cardboard box. That's
Yeah,
what I
I've got a
have.
box with a sad plant in it. But no, I had this script. It was a true story about a murder from my hometown when I was a kid. Um, and I'd written so many different versions of it, almost as like therapy for me to kind of
Mhm.
like find an emotional place to put this kind of traumatic event, um, and it was submitted to a company and they responded to it and I was really excited. And I go in there thinking it's going to be for a TV deal or for a feature film deal. And they said, all right, listen, we want you to write this as a podcast. And I went, great. And I go home and I have to Google like, what's a podcast? I had never listened to them. I wasn't a podcast person. I think I might have heard of the Joe Rogan show or like Serial or something like at the
Mhm.
time. But I'd never done anything. And so I was left completely unsupervised. I could just write whatever I wanted. Uh, that's why if you listen to it, it's not a true crime podcast. It starts off, it pretends that it's a true crime podcast, but then about halfway through the show, one of the very interesting things about that story is that the facts run out before there's any resolution as to what exactly happened. And that
Mhm.
exists, that's still true today. And so, being the storyteller that I am, not a journalist by any means, um, I turned it into a Jersey Devil origin story, and that's what the back half of the season is. So, what that did was that it really pissed off a lot of the true, like bona fide true crime fans. Okay,
Yeah.
but it also invited in a lot of the paranormal horror true crime fans. So,
Mhm.
what I lost in audience, I gained from other genre kind of specific places, and just got super lucky, and the show did really well. And now all of a sudden, I'm that guy, and and I got to do. Now I'm on my fourth season now. Actually, I'm pretty deep into season 4, and about 100 weekly episodes in. So, how did I get into podcasting? Again, I needed a job, and I wound up really enjoying it. I love the writing of it. I love the research of it. Over the years, I've taught myself just about every aspect of it. So I'm a one man operation. I have a recording studio in my house. I do the mixing, I do the editing, I do the music, uh, and the only thing I don't handle, I don't do my own ad sales. I have a team that does that, and but otherwise, so it's great. I'm in control of the creative. I can tell the stories I want. I go through the comments and I see what people like and don't like, and
Right.
to a certain degree, that informs what I'm going to do. But for the most part, I've got a pretty good idea of what my audience likes, and that's the medium length version of the story.
Well, you're better than us because we have to split the duties 50/50.
Yeah, just us.
I have to do the research, she does the editing because I can't stand editing. It's not
Hmm.
my thing. I don't have the patience for it. So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
props to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and with a toddler running around and I stay at home with her, there's no in-depth researching happening in this house.
No way. Couldn't have done this when my kids were toddler age. Couldn't have done
Yeah.
it. So, they
No,
have to be out of
absolutely.
the house. They have to be at school. But what's interesting about being the narrator and the editor, I have no one to be mad at except myself if the editing isn't working out, right? So that makes
Yeah.
me become a better editor and not trip over my words and get rid of the ums and the ahs and the hesitations or the reconsiderations. Like I just, boom, I know to stick to it and to speak clearly and not to stutter because it's just going to piss me off later in the editing room. So,
Exactly. We
yes.
we started out with, the Blue Yeti mics, and you could hear upstairs because we just yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, like, we had Blue Yeti mics, but from where we record in my basement, like, you could hear anytime my kid would drop a toy, and it would drive
Ugh,
me absolutely insane, and I swear it would happen every time, like, we had this great banter going back and forth, and then she would
ugh,
drop something.
it's brutal.
Exactly, like, in the way that those are made, you pick up everything, which can be
Everything.
great, but it was not. So
I'll
we
be in the middle. I'll be in the middle of a really chilling, like important part of a super scary story, and like my teenager will go, "Dad, take me to Starbucks," and like open the door, like, "Get
great.
out of here! I'm working." So it never ends. It never
It's like, "You're
ends.
ruining the vibes."
You're worried the whole vibe. Working at home has its many, many, many pluses, but also a couple of minuses. But it's a net gain, to be sure, to be able to work from home. We're very lucky.
So have you ever gotten into like paranormal investigation or cryptid hunting, anything like that? Have you went out and like tried to find these things?
The closest I came to hunting was for X Marks the Spot, which you mentioned in the bio.
Yeah.
Um, I that's I don't know if either of you are familiar with the Forest Fen treasure hunt, but it
No.
was a cultural phenomenon in like the 2010s. An
Oh
older,
gosh,
very
the way you
wealthy,
sound that makes it sound like it was so long ago.
right? No, 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 no. But it made it into the national zeitgeist on like the Today Show and stuff. So it was pretty
Yeah.
big for a little while. It was a wealthy art dealer from New Mexico, um, who like 20 years ago thought he was dying of cancer, and so he's like, all right, and he was like a cowboy, like no nonsense dude. He's like, I'm not letting cancer kill me. I'm going to do it myself, my way, and I'm going to bury a treasure chest worth $2 million worth of gold. And then I'm going to commit suicide on top of it in a shallow grave somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. And I'm going to leave a treasure hunt for anyone who wants to
Wow.
come find it. They have to rob my grave if they want this money. Okay.
That is wild.
But then he didn't die. Then he beat cancer, the son of a bitch, right? He beat the cancer. So he's like, all right, now what? So this treasure chest is sitting in his office for 10 years until finally he's like, man, there's a chance I'm going to live forever. And I want to be able to enjoy this treasure hunt. So he published a poem that had 9 clues in it that allegedly, if you could figure it out, would lead you directly to the treasure chest. And he published the poem in a book in his memoirs. And it very slowly started to gain steam. And then a couple of people started blogging about it. Then the local news picked it up. Then the Today Show picked it up. And then it got huge. And something like over 1 million people ventured into the Rocky Mountains to try to find this treasure. Okay. So,
Wow.
yeah. And then in 2020, like middle of COVID, it's announced that someone found it. And then like a month later, the old man dies. And he
Oh,
didn't
wow.
reveal who found it or where it was. And the guy who found it wasn't revealing where it was.
Yeah.
I
So,
wouldn't either.
right. So everyone knew that the hunt was over, right? But there was no satisfaction. No one knew what the answers were.
They
So
didn't have the details.
The
exactly. So the
conclusion.
online
Yeah.
community only grew and people were angry and everyone thought, well, I was right. No, I was right. And you stole my solve and you did this and you did that. I'm like, man, this is going to be a great podcast. So I just dove into that community. And before we went on the air, we were talking about how kind of intense the Bigfoot community is online. Okay.
Yeah.
That's like a freaking sewing circle compared to this treasure hunt community. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
These people are litigious. They're threatening. They are they're mean. And so it was a very strange world to splash around in. But
Yeah.
I admit I got kind of caught up in it. I loved writing the story. I loved talking to these people and doing all of the research. And I guess there's a part of me you could say drank the Kool-Aid because I thought for a moment intellectually that I had figured it out. Not anything based on what I had done, but listening to a lot of other people's ideas, people that I trusted, people that I thought were the most sane, because there were some verified lunatics that were
Yeah.
involved in this. And I said, gosh, I think all of this makes sense. Like knowing the kind of man that he was and how much he loved Yellowstone National Park and how much he loved Rockies. And a lot of the clues fit in. So I said, you know what? I'm going to Clark Griswold this. And I rented a Winnebago and I loaded the kids and the wife up and we drove to Yellowstone for the summer and had one of the greatest family vacations that I've ever had. Because I'm not an outdoorsy. I'm a city guy. I'm not a camping guy. I don't like
Me either.
any of it. Okay. But also, I wanted to test my theory. So I went out there and I started where I thought it started in the poem. And I followed the clues and I crossed the Madison River and I went into the pine thicket. And guys, you're not going to believe me because no one else did, but I have pictures of it. I got to this spot in the woods and I looked down, and there was a square depression about 8 inches deep in the ground where it looked like a freaking treasure chest had been buried. And
Wow.
it was, I'm telling you, it was incredible. And I got shouted down by so many people in that community. But the thing about it was, I would say, guys, you have to understand, I don't really care. Like, I'm not emotionally invested in this. It was an intellectual exercise. It was a job, right? Um, and then it was a curiosity. And I went up there and I fell in love with Yellowstone National Park. The place. It's like you're not even on Earth when you're there. It's so gorgeous. And I really felt like, to a certain degree, that I was walking alongside the ghost of this guy who had done that as kind of his legacy to future generations and to people who liked outdoor adventure, And so it
Yeah.
was a wonderful experience, to be honest. And so that's as close as I've come to really kind of getting involved. As a grown up. As a kid, a lot of times me and my brother went ghost hunting because we spent our summers in a house in New Hampshire with my grandparents that anyone will tell you that it was haunted like freaking crazy. So we were always trying
Yeah.
to find stuff up there. But nothing as an adult, nothing as it relates to my work.
Okay, well, you live very close to the Queen Mary, so I need you to go
Oh,
there. It's one of my
woo!
bucket list locations
Wow.
because I'm so skeptical about it since I've read all of this stuff about Disney owning it and setting up, like, all these mechanical things to, I don't know, fake activity, so
Yeah.
I really wanna go and investigate.
So when we make it over there, we'll let you know, and you can
Please,
meet us
we'll go.
there.
We'll do it there. We'll do a collab. We'll do a collab or something.
Yes.
We'll figure out. We're there together.
Yes.
I went to a wedding one time in Savannah, Georgia, and we were staying. We booked a hotel on the website. It's fun and kitschy. It's like it's haunted and woo, right? And and so we check in, and it's a really super cool old like pre-Civil War building, like really really beautiful architecture, and we're there, and I look out the window over this beautiful square and everything, and I'm like, oh, we're on the fourth floor. That's super cool. And then we go out to dinner, and then we're coming back, and just out of, I don't know, whatever habit, or I look up and find where your window is, because I'm like, oh, I know we're on the fourth floor and we're right there,
Yeah.
and there's a person in the window, and I'm freaking out. And it's
What
not
is
like,
that?
it's not a hotel employee. It's someone like in a Civil War jacket with a hat and
Oh
like a
my
freaking
gosh.
musket. I'm like, this is all right. They're doing this on purpose to scare people because they let you know that it's a haunted hotel, and it freaking worked for like a few seconds before I got my wits back about it. But it was weird. And I asked them, like, do you do that a lot? They go, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. If you look at the wall behind the curtains, there are these little cardboard cutouts that we could move in front of windows and stuff, which is really funny and really,
It
It
is.
really
is,
interesting thing
yeah.
to do for a haunted hotel. But yeah, man,
Like, way to know your audience.
Yeah.
Like,
no kidding. No kidding. But there's some weird stories about the Queen Mary, definitely, that I'd love to investigate.
Yeah, I
Excuse me.
I used to be a big, I watched a lot of YouTube videos before we got
Yeah.
into actually paranormal investigating because 'cause I've always been fascinated by it. But the I want to disprove so many things that I've seen on YouTube because I
Mm,
don't trust a lot of YouTubers, and that's
yeah.
coming from somebody who posts on YouTube. But, you know, I just I need to do it myself.
What kind of stuff have you seen on YouTube that you want to disprove? Is there stuff that
Um,
legitimately scares you, and you're like, oh shit, this might be real?
I mean, I wouldn't say scares because it's nothing that we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
But, like, the water faucet turning on by itself, the spirits communicating through knocks, which would be super cool because we have not experienced that. But, asking a question and it knocks once for yes, twice for no.
Mm,
Um,
that's like really, it doesn't sound like it, but that's like actually really big activity, like that you don't see is like the knocking. And
it's intelligent and it takes a lot of energy to do. So, it's something I would like to experience, but, people say that they have someone's sleeping in the bed with them or they move their things. It's just interesting to
And
me.
not that I ever wanna be possessed, but there's also a room there that they closed down for a few years
Yeah.
because of the possessions that kept
Mhm.
occurring when people would stay in that room.
Well, see, that's the kind of stuff that I grew up with up in New Hampshire, where my grandparents lived. They lived in a house that was built like in the 1750s, like before the Revolutionary War. Okay,
Wow.
and it was never anything that was meant to scare you or to think that you're in danger.
Right.
Where
Mhm.
it's like Amityville Horror, where you have to get out. It was
Yeah.
all like, we're gonna share the space. Is always kind of what the feeling was. Like, my grandmother would tell stories, like, they had this antique furniture and, like, old, like, down cushions on the couch that if you sit in it, it left an ass print for, like, a long time. And so one of the last things that she would do at the end of the every day is she'd, like, spread all the cushions out before she went to bed, and then in the morning, they would all have been sat in. Okay.
Wow.
So that was kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
And my mom tells a story when she was a young mother. She was there in the kitchen with my grandmother, and they were doing dishes, and the cuckoo clock chimed at 3 o'clock. And my mom went, "Oh, that's lovely. I didn't know that you got a cuckoo clock." And my grandmother went, "We don't. That's just one of the ways they let us know that they're here." My
Oh
mom's
my
like,
gosh.
"That's terrifying. Why are you so calm when you're saying that? Like, knock it off." She goes, What are we gonna do?" And so
Like,
they
I'm not
sell the
leaving,
house.
so
So when I'm all right, I know when I'm like 12 years old, they sell the house and they move just right up the street. Okay. And the people who moved in, because in New England, there's nothing but antique stores, right?
yeah.
So the
Mhm.
people who moved in were antique dealers. So it was like a dual purpose. They lived upstairs, the downstairs was like an antique store.
Yeah.
Um, and about 6 months after they move in, they have my grandparents over for lunch. And in the middle of lunch, the woman of the house like just puts her fork down and says, I gotta ask, anything weird ever happened when you guys lived here?" And my grandparents, they kind of look at each other and they're like, "Yeah, but it wasn't ever anything dangerous, so we didn't feel like we had to tell you." And they go, "We knew it. We knew it." And she's like, "Why? What's going on with you guys?" They go, "Well, we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of antiques in the house. Okay. And so just out of habit, we make sure everything is locked, every door, every window, everything is locked every night before we go to bed. We triple check." They go, "And every damn morning, the windows are unlocked and open and the doors are cracked a little bit." Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And my grandmother, they so, but it doesn't feel ominous. It doesn't feel dangerous. And my grandmother just chuckles and says, "That's them letting you know that they're not going to let anything bad happen. You don't have to lock up. You don't have to worry." And I went, "That's just so weird. Why are you saying that?" Like it's nothing. That's a huge deal, you
No,
know?
Yeah.
no. Yeah. That's that's a whole thing. Like, for them to have enough energy to open a window, like, that is a very intelligent, active
Right? And
Yeah.
that's
powerful.
scary. I mean, that's exciting, but that's scary.
Yeah, and really powerful and really scary. Yeah. So
It
that's
sounds kind of like my parents' house. My dad won't let us investigate there
God, I
because,
wanna
mm,
go so bad.
he comes investigating with us. That's how I got started into it. My dad and I would watch Ghost Hunters on TV every night or
wow.
every weeknight. So, um, but he won't let us in his house because he made a deal with the spirits years ago that he would never let anyone in there that would try to talk to them intentionally, that would try to hurt them, nothing. Even though I think he has a demon in his house, but I'm not a
Really? You think there's
demonologist,
something
so
you think you think it's something bad?
I do. They haven't done anything, like, to hurt anybody, but I would see, like, a big, tall shadow figure behind my bedroom door. There's a
Wow.
burn mark on my floor that I got in trouble for. I didn't burn my floor, something else did.
Oh.
A few years after we moved in, I mean, we moved in, like, 2005 maybe, and there's these 3 claw marks down our basement door. Um, we
Huh.
had Shih Tzu dogs, so it wasn't our dogs that did it. They're very deep, very thick claw marks on our door, and then a couple years later after that, there were 3 more claw marks above my parents' light switch in their bedroom. So,
And
I think there's something more sinister.
wow. That's some
but they also
Amityville stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
renovated my old bedroom a few years ago, and in the vent in my bedroom, they found old hand sewn shirt covered in
Mm.
some substance wrapped in foil in my vent in my bedroom. And like I said, we've lived there since like 2005, and this was
No,
just
thank
like
you.
a couple years ago. So
No,
I think
thank you.
something happened there, and something bad is
Yeah,
there.
or something ritualistic, like, to the fact that they,
Yeah.
I mean, somebody had to have wrapped that shirt
Yes.
covered in something that resembled blood and foil so it wouldn't
Did you
burn
do
up.
like a history of the house? Did you do a history of the house, a background?
Everything we have looked into about the house, there has been nothing. The people that my parents bought it from, they lived in there like their whole lives, and I think they might have built it, the people that my parents bought it from, but yeah, nothing. I could not find anything. So I have no clue what could have happened, where that shirt came from. My dad did take it to the police just in case. He's like, "I don't want this, but if this is evidence of some kind, you do what you wanna do
Yeah.
with it." He's like, "I don't want anything to do with this." But
What do you guys think about the theory that okay, so after in all right, okay, I'm not gonna get social or political at all, I promise. This is just to illustrate a point. In
okay.
the wake of the George Floyd situation, okay,
Mhm.
Okay.
all right, how a citizen journalist is captured on the cell phone because we all have video cameras on ourselves now, right? And they
Right.
were interviewing Will Smith, and someone said it's just happening so much more frequently now where African Americans are being, and Will Smith's like, no, 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 it's not happening more frequently. It's just being videotaped more frequently.
Yes.
It's always been happening with this regularity, but okay. So with the ubiquity of cameras on literally every person on the planet, the longer we go without definitive proof of something supernatural caught on camera, people, there's the argument that says the more likely that the supernatural and paranormal don't exist. Because you would think by now, if it was happening as often as people claim to be seeing UFOs or claim to be seeing ghosts or claim to be seeing this, that somebody would have captured irrefutable proof on a camera. And then there are the people that go, well, what if, because of some crazy paranormal stuff that we don't understand, uh, you're unable to capture it on video. Okay. You can't really argue against that. Good
Right.
point, I guess.
I
Any
guess
thoughts on
my
that?
thought on that is that we have had more activity when we don't have cameras on.
Mm,
And I don't know why that is, but it is like we will see something, we will see a shadow, and as soon as we go to put our camera on, it's gone. We
gone.
will see something moving, and as soon as we pull our camera out to record it, it stops moving.
So
We've had that happen.
are you attributing that to the entity being camera shy on purpose?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Like some places where I've experienced like more intelligent hauntings, spirits that communicate intelligently, answer your questions appropriately. Um, if I ask you a yes or no question, you're responding with a yes or no answer.
Yep.
Um, then sometimes I think they might be more aware of what is happening. I don't think they necessarily know that oh, they just turned their camera on. I got to run away.
Right.
But I also don't know why it always happens off camera. I mean, we were literally at a location and we walked back to our command center to get batteries and saw pages in a book turning. And we would walk past it to make sure it wasn't us like creating wind. Windows weren't open. There was no heat in the building. We could not explain it. And as soon as we pulled our camera out to start recording on our phone,
The book stopped.
it stops moving. So, and again, we have another piece of evidence where my daughter was leaning against a closet door, a door that had no handle on the inside, just like pillows and linens basically in this closet, and it starts violently shaking, and we can't recreate it. We can't get anything, and the camera was not facing the door. It was facing behind her. So we caught the sound, but not like a very clear image of the door shaking, and we can see her jumping,
Like, skeptics could still absolutely tear that piece of evidence apart.
and it's one of the best pieces of evidence we have, but you can't see the door moving. So it is interesting to me that we experience stuff more often. And I would always judge those, creators who would say, "You're not gonna believe this happened because it happened off camera," but
Right.
it's
It
real.
really does. It be like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's because of the flow of energy,
Mhm.
like, whenever you are utilizing camera equipment. I don't know if that could have something to do with it.
But also different pieces of equipment like cell phones or walkie-talkies, they can interfere with your paranormal devices, causing false readings too. So, it I think there's a fine line between when we're using technology to capture evidence and when we're not. I don't know what that difference is, though. I don't know if it's giving them drawing more energy from them whenever we have electronics going, or if it's putting more energy out there.
Like,
I don't
pushing them
know.
away. We're
I'm
still
gonna
working
go
on that full answer.
I'm gonna go way far afield here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. What if okay, this all leads back to the hypothesis that we're living in a simulation. You guys familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That it's like a 0.01% possibility that we're in base reality, right? Like that there's no way we're in base reality. We're in some level of a
Mhm.
simulation. And one of the big pieces of evidence to support that, listen, there's a lot of evidence against it. Okay. Like there isn't a hard drive big enough to contain all of the data necessary to run a simulation as big as our universe. But
Right.
regardless, but one of the pieces of it is that the double slit experiment. Have you guys heard about that?
No.
No.
It's so there's a screen, and then in front of it there's another screen with two slits in it, like this. Okay. And then they shoot electrons at it. Okay.
Okay.
There's just a wave of electrons at it. And so what you're expecting to see is the electrons that go through the slit just make two lines on the board, on the panel behind it. Okay.
Mhm.
Then they switched something, and now the electrons go through as a wave instead of as particles. Okay.
Okay.
And when they go through as a wave, they spread out. So there's a whole spread on on the thing behind it. So it's either two lines or just a whole spread.
Right.
And I'm really shortening this whole thing, but the thing that freaks people out is that as soon as they turn a camera on, these subatomic particles, these protons that left the device acting as a wave, start acting as particles. The only difference is that a human being walked across the room and turned a camera on, and it changed how these particles behave. Nothing
That's
else changed.
interesting.
Turn the camera off and they go back to how they were before. The only difference is that they're now being observed and their behavior changes. That's something that comports more completely with our understanding of physics. So that's why people say, okay, that's a little glitch in the code that somebody wrote in the simulation that we're living. So it's even more interesting because I explained it in a very non-educated way. But you should look it up when we're
Our
done.
favorite kind. It's fine.
It's everywhere on YouTube. The double slit experiment. It'll blow your
Yeah.
freaking mind. Yeah, it'll scare you. Honestly,
We
you'll
love
be
it.
like, "What the hell is going on?" Yeah. So that made me think of it because what's altering the behavior of what you guys are talking about is the fact that there's a camera there,
Yeah.
right?
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows? Or they could
That
just
also
be
makes me
camera shy ghosts.
and it also makes me think of one of our paranormal, like, resources out there posed a question, "What do you think ghosts are?" Do
Mm,
you think that they are, like, lost loved ones? Is it
mm.
just residual energy? It and if it is that energy, that would kind of go along with the
Yeah.
particles and,
Yeah.
so it really just
Well, what do you
so
guys think ghosts are?
I I don't know. I think that's part of what I'm trying to figure out as we
Yeah.
continue to investigate. I don't wanna make up my mind about anything, honestly, because then I think that's part of the fun is trying to figure out answers to things like that. So,
Yeah. Would you
whenever
think
we
that most people would say that ghosts are like unsettled spirits of people who have died?
Oh,
yes.
absolutely, and that's not even necessarily from their belief, that's what, all of the media has pushed, like, your scary movies, your horror novels. That's
Yeah.
generally what is pushed out to the masses. Like, unless somebody just is interested and dives deep, that's all anyone's really gonna know of a ghost.
Yeah, because you have
Or
residual
you've got ghosts and then, demons,
demons.
daemons, and everyone thinks that demons are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I
I
was involved in a debate once where this came up, and it was a really interesting counter argument that someone made, and I just kept my mouth shut because I'm not a researcher. I'm a dilettante. I'm just a curious guy who read a lot. I don't have any higher education or anything. But uh, a guy said, "What do you think ghosts are?" And the other guy said, "They're unsettled spirits of dead people." Okay, who haven't crossed into heaven or hell or whatever. And the guy says, "Okay, you don't understand the gravity of the statement that you're making there, because what you're leapfrogging over is basically proof of an afterlife, proof of something that exists after we die, which is a question that's plagued mankind since the
Mhm.
first of us walked the earth."
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
You're just speeding right past that and going, "Oh no, these are unsettled spirit." I mean, like, let's go back to that first question. And then that opened up this whole thing. And I find that even more interesting but it's an extension of belief, right? It's an extension
Mhm.
of,
Yeah.
I'm afraid of dying and I don't know what comes next. So I believe that there is an afterlife, and if I'm good, that's where I go. And if I'm not, here's proof, because there's ghosts. It's like a
Yeah.
self-fulfilling kind of thing. And so it's just an interesting kind of frame of reference for a belief structure when it comes to ghosts. I'm more with you guys. I rather like not knowing, you
Yeah.
know, and kind of hearing all different opinions and kind of figuring it out.
We'll
Is
find
it is
out
it
eventually. I mean,
leftover energy? Yeah, we'll find out eventually, because you know what, the laws of thermodynamics, right? Energy can't be created or destroyed, right? After the Big
Right.
Bang,
And that's
all the
what
energy
a lot
that will ever exist was created at the same moment. Okay, so where does it go?
that's
I
what a
don't know.
lot of the more, like, scientific paranormal researchers, paranormal investigators, that's what they back up is, you know, energies cannot
That's
be
the
created or
foundational. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. That's that's where it happens. And then you'll talk to like biological, or you'll talk to physicists or biologists that answer that question, like, okay, that energy, if you get cremated, that's where the energy goes. You get
mhm.
burned and there's the energy. Or you decompose, that's a slow kind of releasing of that energy. But that doesn't account for the slight loss of weight when someone dies, when like the soul's leaving the body. Like, what's that? Where does that energy go?
Yeah.
you know like, there's always these little, yes, but, well, how about this? That's a cool explanation, but it doesn't really cover this or cover that. And I think that's where the good stuff is, in the questions.
I'm putting it out there that I want to be a ghost when I die. So, I mean, I will come back and let y'all know what I am.
Wow, really? That's what you'd want to
Bold
do?
bold of you to assume you would be an intelligent
I would hope
Hmm.
I would be an intelligent haunting.
And would you haunt people? Would you like scare people, or?
It depends on where I'm at in my life whenever I die, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's true. That's true. Would you bring a message of the afterlife? Like, yo, everything's
I
cool.
yeah, I would probably choose one of my kids to haunt. That would be it.
Yeah. Yeah, I might do that too. Unless in the afterlife, like, I meet my dog from when I was a kid, then I wouldn't give a shit about coming back
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Then
I
I'd be
just, I
like, "All
just
right,
chill with I just chill with my
bye
dog.
kids."
Yeah. We'll we'll rekindle eventually, it's fine.
Yeah, sooner I'll see you later. I'm gonna hang out with Pepper for a while. Yeah. Um, so where do you guys find your? I'm sorry, I'm interviewing you, but I know it's your show. But where do you guys find your stories that you cover? Because you're coming up on like 60 episodes. I mean, 70 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So we did a lot of true crime last year,
Uh-huh.
and we kind of decided that, well, first of all, we tried to pick stories that maybe weren't overdone.
Mhm.
Everybody has a Jeffrey Dahmer episode. Everybody has a Ted Bundy episode. Let's look
Mhm.
at some of the lesser known serial killers and cults. And we decided whenever we took a look back at our year last year that we wanted to focus more on paranormal because that's where our hearts are. We enjoy it more. It's easier to write about something and edit something and go actually investigate something that you're excited about rather than, you know, gosh, I
Dreading.
can't find anything on this cult. I need help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we we got a lot of our ideas from, listening to shows that we do like. Okay, well, we listen to a lot of Morbid or Crime Junkie or whatever shows
Mhm.
we
Two
were
Girls,
listening
One
to.
Ghost at that time.
Yeah, so we kind of looked to them and seen, okay, what are they doing that we're liking, but we don't want to copy them, so let's make it our own.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we did, and then our haunted locations, honestly, I've been watching paranormal videos on YouTube for so long that I already had a laundry list of where I
Yeah.
wanted to go.
And we go to different paranormal conventions around
Mhm.
our area, and we even traveled to Connecticut to one.
We did.
How
But
close are you guys to Charleston? Are you close?
An hour and a half, about.
Yeah. Do they have a
Mhm.
lot of stuff there? Is that's like a proper city,
No.
right? No?
yeah,
Yeah, not really.
not at least not well known. We went to
A
a
cemetery.
cemetery there that was wild.
Mm.
It ate my footage. Like, it made my phone go completely
Whoa.
haywire. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was wild. We were
Well,
getting
I
ready
saw
to
you guys
leave.
most recently, you did a thing on the Jersey Devil, which made me very proud.
we
We
did.
did.
What was
I hope
your,
we did make you proud with
what
it, so
what was your
Yeah.
takeaway on that?
We wanna go to the Pine Barrens and camp.
I don't like to camp, but I will.
Pine Barrens are, gosh, they're beautiful. It's amazing. It's amazing, the Pine Barrens. Just as, a piece of country, you'd love it. You'd absolutely
Yeah.
love it. Um,
Yeah. I
but it's
think my
also South Jersey. I'm from North Jersey.
The
Be
only
careful
thing
in
I
South
know
Jersey.
about Jersey is,
Yeah.
1, the Jersey Shore,
If you make a
and
Hamilton reference right here,
2, in Hamilton, they say everything is legal in New Jersey,
Alexander,
so
'cause that's where
that's all I
Alexander
know.
Hamilton was from. He's from New Jersey. Well, he's from the Caribbean, but his
Yes.
first home in North America was New Jersey. Um,
Everything is legal in New Jersey,
it
so
was then. It was then. It's not now. Okay, back then you could have duels in New Jersey. That's why they
yes.
came across to Weehawken. Yes, I'm not proud of it, not ashamed of it, but that's just how it was. There's still a lot of mafia up in North Jersey. But there's great people. It's a wonderful state, um, and very rich in history and in folklore. And an interesting thing as you get deeper into the season 1 of The Devil Within, it was one of those times where, gosh, I got all chuffed because for a moment I felt like a journalist because I felt like I actually discovered something. Okay,
Yeah.
and when I was researching Jersey Devil for that, I came across this very, very pagan uh, kind of neon sign that just kind of jumped out at me. That every sighting of the New Jersey Devil from revolutionary times when New Jersey was a travel corridor between Boston and Philly, up until present day, you can't find a sighting that isn't within 2 weeks after the summer solstice or the winter solstice.
Really?
That's when every sighting is. Everyone.
Wow.
There's no like springtime sighting or like
so that one we could go camping.
autumnal sighting. It's winter solstice, dead of winter, or the height of summer. Yeah. So it's
Wow.
that, and that informed the last couple of episodes where I was like, as a storyteller, you could do a lot with that, right?
Yeah.
Because you could kind of hang your hat on. There's a little kernel of truth to this,
Yeah.
because I could cite sources, and journals, revolutionary journals, and newspaper reports and stuff, that people could go fact check me on, and they go, "Oh shit, he's
Yeah.
telling the truth here. Okay, I'll be damned," And then you just start piling on, the make believe. But It was that was I found that super cool. And then just these panics that came about because of Jersey Devil sightings.
Yeah.
Where the National Guard comes in and stay in your homes and they're stealing livestock and cloven hooved and the spiked tail. Yeah, I love all of that stuff. Love all of it.
I think because I found a few origin story, folklore legends while I was researching it. And I think the one I believe the most is the Mother Leeds story.
Mother Leeds. Was it like the 13th child or the
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she pled to,
Oh, this
make
one's
that
gonna be a
choice.
devil. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one that I believe the most, I think. I don't know. That seemed to have the most supporting, legend around it. I don't want to say facts because I mean it's legend, but
Yeah. Just the the darkness of that story is that she gave birth to a demon that killed everybody in the room and then fled out the chimney,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. That's really scary. If
Yeah.
it's absolutely terrifying. And then, and then the obvious question is, all right, well, then who survived to tell the story? Like, did Mother Leeds survive? Did the demon kill everybody but the mom because he's like, yo, Ma, I'll let you live and I'll get out of here? Yeah. But that's listen, those are very interesting stories. And what's as a proud son of North Jersey, I don't like that South Jersey apparently believes they have a monopoly on the Jersey Devil. There's North Jersey sightings of the there's Central Jersey sightings of the Jersey Devil. So let's just be honest here, okay? There's more than just the Pine Barrens. We
It's
have
not
pine
called the
forests up
South
north.
Jersey Devil. It's called the
No,
Jersey Devil.
exactly. It's called the Jersey Devil. We have pine forests up north, not as vast as in the South, but we have pine forests and very interesting terrain, so come on up to
See,
North
we
Jersey.
have the Mothman that we claim, and he's like an hour and a half away from us, but we still claim him. And then the other direction from us, we have the Flatwoods Monster. But I think the Mothman is our favorite. We claim him.
The Flatwoods
Isn't-
Monster, I still think is more UFO than
So who's your Mount Rushmore of cryptids?
Mothman.
Well, let's go. It's
And-
got to be Bigfoot. It's got to be Loch Ness, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, Bigfoot, Loch
Mothman.
Ness. I mean, Jersey Devil and Mothman are probably my other two.
that you
Yeah.
actually think could probably be a thing.
See, so
But
if you're
duck wedgies are interesting too.
what
Puck wedgies are cool.
the hell are you talking about? What? What did you just say?
Puck wedgie.
Puck Wudgie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a little.
You guys are drunk. What are you talking about?
They're like these little, they're Native
Speaking of drunk,
American.
check out this little IPA can.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
But they're
While we were
like
talking
these
about-
Native American, I have to look at the episode that I'm writing. It's been a blur. But Pukwudgie means like little person, and it's
It's like a little monkey.
yeah. They're really interesting.
Allegedly indigenous to what region?
Several different
Delaware,
tribes.
Yeah, the Wampanoag folklore.
That's Virginia.
Delaware, New York,
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, New
Okay,
York. We go
because-
to this place that has spotted Pukwudgies, according to them, in northern New York, up by Buffalo.
Wow. Well, if you're going to in the deserts of the southwestern United States, the Mothman wouldn't be on the Mount Rushmore because
No.
it would be Chupacabra. would get
Yep.
on
Yep.
it. Yeah. But I think of the, I think I agree with you. Mothman definitely is the fourth spot. But of those four, Bigfoot, Jersey Devil, Loch Ness, Mothman. To me, the Mothman is the most like, huh? Right? Like there's the most meat on the bone there that makes you a little like, let's talk about something else because that's a little too scary for me. You know?
Yeah.
Right, like
Um,
its connection to the bridges, the bridge, the TNT mine, the
It's modern,
story.
right? It's within a generation. It's not like Jersey Devil folklore from 200 years ago. It's not Loch Ness that's across the ocean. It's not
Yeah.
Mothman's legitimately pretty scary. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the bridge that collapsed after, Mothman was sighted near it. My boyfriend, his dad was driving across it less than a half hour before it collapsed.
Oh,
So it
wow.
does hit close to home for us because we're like, okay, had he been stuck in traffic or something, he could have been involved in
Yeah.
that bridge collapse. So, um, yeah, it is interesting. I think there's a lot to it, especially when you look at all the men in black that supposedly came in.
Yeah.
There's a whole museum. So if you ever end up in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, go to the museum.
Jeez.
I mean, he says
Okay.
it
Hey,
has
look.
its own, like, weekend-long festival. Like,
That
Wow.
it's huge.
thousands of people go to. It's hard to walk around.
Where do you guys land on UFO stuff? Do you do anything on UFOs?
I'm a believer,
Yeah.
110%.
Yeah. Believer that they're aliens that are in charge of the craft and that are piloting the craft?
Or the Yeah, I believe in
Yeah.
aliens. So I
Okay.
believe it is very human of us to think if we're the only intelligent life form in the entire universe.
Yep.
But um I I do believe that they're aliens. I don't know that I believe they're these gray, oblong looking things with the big
Right.
eyes. I think they look more like us than we think.
Hmm.
But I don't know where I land on abduction stories.
Yeah.
But I do believe that UFOs have been spotted and that there are some aliens down on the earth somewhere.
And
They're
what do you
checking
think?
us out.
All right. So that was my next question. What do you think they're doing here?
I think they're just gathering information, honestly. That's my vibe. I don't know.
Why? All right. Just looking at it through the lens of human animal. Okay.
Mhm.
Throughout our history as a species, why did we uh, venture to new places to kind of snoop around?
To take it over.
To
Yeah.
take that shit over. Exactly.
It's like,
Because
just
we want to.
collect information. Like, no, if they're here, they're coming. We're
Because they
either gonna
want it.
have a treaty, we're gonna
They're
or we already
taking
have
soil
one.
samples. They're getting seeds. They want to see what the freaking weather's like. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little unsettling. It's a little, maybe. It's a little
But when
unsettling.
you put it that way,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not all sunshine and rainbows.
But there's
I
another really interesting theory about that I happen to believe only because that's what I want to be true, as opposed to that we're, a candidate for takeover. Okay. It's I think it's element 92. I forget what it is. I think it's the element 92 problem that that any society, that any intelligent species as they evolve, they would learn about the periodic table of elements in the same order that we learned them, right? Hydrogen's the most abundant and oxygen and and when you get to element 92, that's the atom that you split that makes nuclear weapons possible. Okay.
Mhm.
And so it's the mark of a species to be able to discover that and then not destroy itself almost immediately. Okay. And we came super close uh, during the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the 60s. We were like on the edge of nuclear annihilation, right?
Mhm.
And we didn't, and we pulled back. Okay. So are we one of those rare species that is evolved enough to not destroy ourselves with our own technology? Maybe. And so that could make us interesting to other like species out there, right? Where these
Yeah.
other intelligent species have been watching us for thousands of years, waiting for us to kill ourselves. We had the opportunity and we didn't. Okay. And they're like, oh, hey, th- this might be a worthwhile species to kind of collab with and share some cool technology. And let's all sing kumbaya together, as we colonize the universe. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be.
I like
That's
that
Or
theory
best
much
case
better than your
scenario.
theory.
or they want all our shit. That's or
Yeah.
that.
One
Which
or the other.
it's one or the other. It's one or the other. But no, it's all of these drones and stuff. We're over my hometown in Jersey.
Oh,
earlier
yeah.
in the year. Yeah, they
Mhm.
were right over this military base. They were over, and
Didn't they call them, like, they're just weather balloons?
you still don't know what they are. Still don't know what they are. Just tell us what they are. And they can't. So we don't know. So it just makes it puts the worst ideas into your head, that it's aliens coming to steal our weapons technology, or it's,
Mhm.
or who, geez, who knows? Who knows? If they're just drones that they're out there testing then let us know that. But
Just say it.
right, just
Yeah,
just
Yeah.
freaking
wouldn't
say it.
feel as serious if we would just be given the information.
Sure.
Right.
We can handle stuff. We can handle stuff. Like they released those Tic Tacs off the coast of California that the fighter jets were following, and they're
Mhm.
going so fast and then going straight up. And what did they call it? Multi-domain. They went up into space, into our atmosphere, and into the ocean, and didn't change speeds. Well,
Whoa.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. What are you talking about?
Well, we
Oh
are
God.
approaching the hour mark,
Oh,
Brandon. We
yes,
don't
we
wanna
are.
keep
Sorry.
you so long. Um, we will definitely have all of your information, including a link to your podcast
Great.
in our description down below.
Great. And I would
Well,
just ask that keep an eye out this autumn, so in about 6 months, for a TV show based on my podcast that's going to be coming out. I
yes.
can't
Yes.
say where, but it's on a major streamer, but I can't
Okay.
say which one
But
yet.
when we have that information, we will share it with everyone.
Yes, when I have the information, I would be very grateful if you guys wouldn't mind sharing it with your audience. That would be great.
Yeah,
Oh,
And
absolutely.
absolutely.
great. And there's a new there's a brand new season of Devil Within that's out right now. We're about halfway through, about on episode 5. It's called Satan's Shadow, and it is a deep
We're talking
dive
about
into
Richard Ramirez, right?
talking about Richard Ramirez, and it I tell a parallel story of Dante's Inferno and Dante's descent into through the 9 circles of hell, because that was the experience of people in Los Angeles during the summer of 1985. As Ramirez got more and more violent and his crimes got more and more diabolical, the weather got hotter and hotter and hotter, and people that I had interviewed said it was like they were going through hell. And so I went,
Wow.
that's an interesting parallel to kind of draw,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it keeps me as a creator interested, and
Yeah.
and the stories align incredibly well. So, and we're getting great responses so far from the first 5 episodes. So, I would humbly ask your listeners to go check that out as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
We have been working our way through and we love it. So, not
Terrific.
I'm not to the new season, but so we're working on
Well, I
it.
appreciate you guys so much for allowing me to come on. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you have, and I look forward to continuing the relationship. And I'm not kidding. If you ever come out to LA, please let
It's
me know. I'll meet you at the Queen Mary, and we'll do it, and
absolutely.
we'll do it together. Okay.
It's on the bucket list. We wanna make a California trip, and we wanna hit the Queen Mary, we wanna hit the Winchester Mystery House, and we wanna make a yeah.
So we
Yo,
gotta save for all
Yeah,
of these. So make
so
sure if
all
you're
right.
watching this, leave us a like
There
and
you
a
go.
comment and
There you
share it,
go.
subscribe.
everyone.
And share it with anybody who you think might like it. Let's get your audience up too. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I'll
absolutely.
share some clips on my feed as well. So hopefully
Yeah,
we'll
that sounds
expose your
great.
show to my audience as well. So that would be great.
Perfect,
Awesome.
and anytime you, like, if you come across anything that you're recording that you'd like to hear, like, paranormal opinion on, or if you wanted to collab again in the future, don't
Let us know.
hesitate. Yeah, just don't hesitate to email us. This has been
I couldn't
great.
agree more. Same. I hope this is the beginning of a relationship, not a one-time deal. Okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, this has been great. I love a deep dive of conspiracy. I'm like, so next time we need to come in with prepared that we can, like, compare notes.
Great. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Like,
We'll do it.
we'll
Ladies,
pick a we'll pick a
thank you so
cryptid
much
or
for your time.
something and deep dive, and then we'll share notes.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Really, that sounds great. I'm serious.
All right, guys, this has been our chat with Brandon. He has been wonderful. I hope you guys really enjoyed this deep dive all over the place conversation that we have had. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Comment down below if you made it to the end of the video with a microphone emoji.
There you go.
check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Spooky Sleuths Pod. If you are listening over on Spotify or Apple Music, make sure you guys leave us a rate and review. You can
And rate and review Branden Morgan's podcast.
Yes.
Yes, please do. Check it out.
Yeah, The Devil Within. And on that note,
Stay
Hey,
spooky,
spooky
friends.
friends. Woo!
Join us for an unforgettable night of paranormal exploration at the Ross House.
step into the eerie world of the unknown as Spooky Sleuths invites you to uncover the spine-tingling secrets of one of Ohio's most haunted landmarks, the Ross House.
This historic, atmospheric home has long been a hotbed for paranormal activity, and we're giving you the chance to experience it firsthand.
What's waiting for you? Glad you asked. A haunting history where you can discover the chilling stories behind the Ross House from our expert guides.
A hands-on investigation equipped with the latest ghost hunting gear. You'll explore the house's most active spots, from EVPs to potentially ghostly encounters. You'll witness it all. Also learn from our group how to investigate a location thoroughly and effectively.
Supernatural surprises. Expect the unexpected. The Ross House has a reputation for strange sounds, mysterious shadows, and unexplained movements. Will you make contact with the spirits that roam its halls?
A nighttime adventure. The investigation will take place after dark when the house is at its creepiest. Are you brave enough to spend the night with the spirits?
Limited spots are available. Don't miss your chance to experience one of Ohio's most haunted locations up and personal.
Reserve your spot today before they sell out. The link is in the bio. The link is in the description.